Hi, my name is Krista Nagel. I was a former NICU nurse of 14 years, and now I am the founder and creator of Warrior Mamas, how to find and embrace your inner warrior. My story really started with the birth of my first son in 2015. And prior to that, I was just an indoctrinated nurse going along with everything I had learned in school and what I had learned in working in the hospital. When my son was born, something I say from divine intervention came upon me and really pushed me to look into what I was going to feed him as his first foods. Being a nurse, someone interested in food, staying healthy, I thought I knew everything there was to know about what I was going to feed him until I started to dive into it and I realized I didn't know anything. I became really passionate about what we were going to feed our babies, what we're going to feed our children. So much so that I enrolled at the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition to become a holistic nutritionist. I wanted this information to get out to parents everywhere. If I didn't know this as a nurse, I knew many parents out there did not know this information either. And what we feed our children the first 1,000 days is so important. It sets the foundation for their growth, their mood, their behavior, everything down to their cell development. So that was the first door that opened for me in unlearning some of the medical corruption that has been bestowed upon us. And from there, I just kept learning. Being in school, learning about holistic wellness, I remember thinking, health is so easy. Why didn't we learn this in nursing school? Why doesn't everyone know this? It's actually so simple. Until that aha moment came upon me and I realized they don't want us to know about health. They want us to stay sick. They want us to stay as victims that are handing over responsibility of our lives. So continued further on, digging deeper, until my second son was born. And this is where I really learned about what we were injecting into their bodies. I realized with my first son, I was so concerned about what I was putting in his mouth, what I was putting on his body and his environment, that I had to pause and think, well, what are we actually putting into their bodies? And this is another thing, again, we weren't taught in nursing school. And so when I dove deeper, I decided to look at the diseases, the illnesses, all these things that we weren't taught in school. And when I dove into what they were, it helped remove my fear of them. I looked into, are there other treatments? Are there other remedies? What's the worst case scenario? And that removed my fear going forward without injections, because I realized that we are fearfully and wonderfully made in perfect divine creation, and we don't need anything synthetically made by man. We are perfect as we are, and God doesn't make mistakes, but humans do. So with my second son, he was born in 2018. That is when I said no to all childhood injections. And I just looked at him and I remember thinking how perfect he was. How could I ever think that he needed anything outside of me, outside of him, and everything that was created around us? Continue diving deeper, because once you open one door, you have to keep going. And from there, I learned more about our symptoms, about our body, and about our innate adaptive wisdom that is within us. Our body is so incredibly smart and smarter than we will ever be. Our body knows more than we will ever know, and our body will always hold the truth from what is in us. Even if we don't realize what our subconscious is picking up, our body does. Fast forward to the birth of my third child, born just recently this past year in 2023. And she was my redemption birth. Because throughout all this learning, our children are our biggest blessings, and all the gifts we get to unlearn and learn through them and everything they get to teach us. And through the journey of my children, I realized different aspects of life. I realized the physical body. I realized trusting our body and what it can do. But then I realized how powerful we are and the voice that we have. And that brought me to the birth of my baby daughter. Because throughout conception is when our responsibility is taken from us. And it is in that moment where we run to the doctors and we look and say, okay, here's our pregnancy test, here's the first ultrasound, the dating ultrasound. From there, we continue going into appointments and handing over our responsibility to someone else, seeking external validation. We've handed over our intuition. We no longer trust ourselves, but we need to be told by the expert what is happening with our body. And this continues throughout pregnancy for women as we go to checkups and prenatals, and our OBs tell us if everything is okay. We no longer trust ourselves. Moving on till the birth of our baby, at this point, we're told how to push, when to push, what to do, how to birth our baby. We don't even trust the innate instincts that our body has to birth life into this world. All of a sudden, our babies are then taken away from us, placed on a table, and injected with medicine in that moment. And what does this message send us? That our babies are born with flaws, our babies are imperfect, our babies need our help to survive. And this messaging continues as we bring our babies to well baby visits, and again, we hand over our responsibility onto someone else. How is my baby doing? Is my baby gaining enough weight? Is my baby okay? We no longer trust ourselves or our intuition as mothers as we bring life into this world. And this is where it needs to stop. And for me, with the birth of my daughter, my redemption birth, I was able to reclaim this power and say, no more am I handing over my responsibility. So she was born at home, out of the system. My pregnancy was the most peaceful pregnancy I'd ever had. There was no tests, there was no interference. There was only me and my growing baby inside of me. And I just had to trust my body in everything that it knows how to do, and trust my baby inside of me, and allow the divine, perfect creation to take its place. And so baby girl was born at home, and it was the hardest, most amazing thing that I had ever done. And when she came into this world, we both looked at each other, and I said, we did it. Because I realized it wasn't just me, and it wasn't just her, but something what we got to go through together, a full transformation. And that was the whole, everything coming full circle from my journey from my first son to my second to the third. Everything came full circle in completing this journey. And so from my experience of my children, throughout the almost 9 years of unlearning, from being an indoctrinated nurse to now a holistic mama, a warrior mama, I'd love to help take you and guide you along your own journey so you can learn from the mistakes I've made, so you can learn from the unlearning I've gone through, and so together we can raise healthy, free, and strong children.